This is Eric Miskell with EMS Now, and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. Today, it is my great pleasure to bring to you and have a chance to interview Mr. Atul Lall. He is the Vice Chairman and Managing Director of Dixon Technologies out of India. We had the pleasure a month ago, I believe it was, to interview another gentleman from Dixon, Mr. Vakani. And this is as a follow-up to this. We wanted to learn more about Dixon specifically and gain some additional insight into the Indian market. So Mr. Lall, thank you for taking time out of your day to join with us and our audience today and to tell your story and tell us more about both Dixon and the industry in India.
Thank you so much. My pleasure is entirely. Thank you so much, Eric.
Absolutely. So let me begin with kind of a general. You helped found Dixon Technologies over 25 years ago. I'm not sure what the exact years were. As a manufacturer, I believe, of color televisions, but maybe you can help tell the story of kind of the evolution of how Dixon began and how it grew to being one of the largest indigenous EMS in India today.
So back in 1991, the family was in branded electronics business. And if you recall, those were extremely turbulent times. One, on the global side, we used to have in that business a large revenue coming from the Eastern Bloc, the erstwhile USSR. So USSR disintegrated, and that revenue stream completely fell apart. And then we used to be in large branded business of consumer electronics, televisions, audios. And consumer electronics in India always was import dependent. So we used to have a deep relationship with the Japanese majors like Hitachi. And 91, India went through a huge economic crisis. Our foreign exchange reserves dipped to barely 2 weeks. And the imports came to a standstill, and the business was deeply impacted. So when you are at that level of stress, some opportunities come your way. And that's the time, sometime in 92, 93, we got this opportunity from LG Electronics of Korea. At that time, it used to be Gold Star. There was an anti-dumping duty imposed on Gold Star by Europe of 23% on color televisions. And there was a normal import duty of 14%. So on Gold Star television exports to Europe, there was a 37% duty. They were looking for a partner in India because from Indian exports, there was no duty. So there was 37% duty arbitrage. And that's when this partnership, it was coming our way, and we started Dixon with a very small capital in a rented premises, manufacturing color televisions for Gold Star for exports to Europe. The capital was barely 4 million rupees, and it was a rented premises of only 30,000 square feet. But we felt that this is going to be, that time EMS globally was also on a low key. The brands were focused more on manufacturing on their own. So it was the industry globally and even so in India at a very nascent stage. But we had this conviction that brands more and more are going to look at outsourcing. So this is one domain, if we pursue, we can make it. So it was not easy. We started in a small way, but we have stuck to it. And we have always been subservient to our principles and brands. Always the focus has been to create value for them. And also we realize that any vertical that we have, we need to have a very large scale to generate an operating leverage, because our cost structures have to be lower than our principles. So that's the way the journey started.
That's interesting. And from that, you obviously grew into other divisions and other product lines. And you also are doing both traditional EMS, contract manufacturing work, and traditional ODM, the original design manufacturing. Can you speak to that a bit?
So please appreciate that our core is electronics manufacturing. What we understand well, and where the company and the team has acquired the skill set is our deep understandings of chips, semiconductors, passives, polymers, metals, thermals, optics. So all our businesses are built around that. That is the common thread across all the product verticals. And any product category which comes our way, in which this skill set can be used, and it ticks all the boxes as far as the financial matrix is concerned, we grab it and we build it. Now, we also felt that more and more brands, over a period of time, on the large mass consumption products, are not keen for design development. They want to outsource even the design development. For example, let's say LED bulbs or a tube light. A major principal is not interested in focusing on the design of those commoditized products, which are highly commoditized and low-cost products. So we felt there was a huge space there, and we acquired that capability. So in some of our verticals like lighting, washing machine, televisions, we have pursued the path of acquiring the IP, because we also felt over a period of time that it further enhances our operating leverage. And more than enhancing the operating leverage, it further enhances our stickiness with the customer. So that's the path we have pursued, and it has paid rich dividends to us. And we feel that we're going to be pursuing it in most of the categories. Not all possibly, because it's not that easy, but in many of our categories.
Okay. And I like the tagline, I think it was, that your vision is to emerge as the largest, most cost-effective, complete solution provider in the electronics market, both domestically and on the international market. And again, just to reiterate the point, and you do that as an EMS and ODM, but Dixon will not compete with their customers and will not be an OEM and bring its own branded products to market.
So we're very clear on that particular aspect, that we will not compete with our customers in the marketplace. So there is absolutely no question of Dixon promoting its own brand and interfacing with the consumer, who is the consumer of our customer.
Good. Now, and you mentioned a few of them as you were speaking, but I just want to make, for the benefit of our audience, highlight them. The industries that you primarily serve. And you had mentioned the LED lighting, the washing machines, I know mobile and security devices. There's also medical. If you can maybe speak to that, am I missing some there?
So as you mentioned just now, that we are the largest manufacturer of LED lighting products in India. In some of the SKUs like LED bulbs, we are number 3 or 4 globally. We are the largest manufacturers of LED televisions in India. More than 30% of the Indian requirement is serviced by us. We are the largest manufacturer of washing machines in India. We are a very, very large manufacturer of 2G and 4G and now 5G phones. And a significant part of those phones for very major brands are being exported to even US now. We have ventured into telecom products. So we have got into a JV with a large conglomerate in India, the Bharti Group, who are the owners of Airtel mobile service. They are the providers. So we get into ONTs, GPONs, routers, modems. We're already a very large manufacturer of set-top boxes, security surveillance systems. Last year, during the pandemic time, we ventured into a very disruptive medical electronics device, which does an RT-PCR test of COVID-19 virus in 55 minutes. So now we have been given a special approval. We've been chosen by the government as one of the few manufacturers approved for a special incentive for IT products. So we have a tie-up with large global brands, and just in a couple of weeks' time, we start manufacturing laptops for them. So yeah, very many verticals now.
Okay. And as you just said, but I was going to ask where your customer base is mainly located, but you've already said it's mostly the global brands that you're building for. But is the primary end market still India? You just alluded to doing some where you're shipping to the United States for some products. I'm assuming you're sending to Europe as well. Where are your end customers mostly located?
So up to last year, most of our revenues. So we did a revenue of almost $900 million last fiscal, and most of it was coming from the Indian markets, but for the large global brands in India. In this fiscal year, in spite of the impact of COVID, we are going to be touching from $900 million to almost $1.7 million. And out of that, almost 25% would be from exports. And this is exports of 4G and 5G mobile phones. And this is mainly to US. We are also expecting some breakthroughs because in the case of LED lighting, a lot of safety approvals are required. And we have got those safety approvals from the European and the US labs. We are expecting that our exports of LED lighting products, both to Europe and US, is going to start sometime from Q4, that is January to March quarter of 2021 fiscal. Okay. So we feel that over a period of time, almost 45 to 50% of our revenues are going to come from the group.
Okay, excellent. Now, as far as your manufacturing facilities, those are all located within India. I believe it's a network of 14 facilities across India. Is that correct?
That's right. So we are based, our footprint is in north of India, in Delhi NCR, and around 200 kilometers from Delhi NCR. And we have now a large footprint south in an area called Tirupati, which is around 125 kilometers from Chennai port. So we have a large footprint there. So it's at both north and south.
Okay. And you also have the R&D centers, and I noted there, I believe 3 of them. Is it 2 in India and 1 in China, or how is that?
Yeah, so we have 2 R&D centers in India and 1 in China.
Okay. And are those supporting all of the product lines, or how do those function?
So at present, the design initiatives are primarily in LED televisions, light, washing machine. However, our China office also interfaces with our ODM partners in China for various other products, namely mobiles or IT products. Okay. But design is focused as of now on these 3 verticals.
Okay. And then as the design is obviously, and you mentioned that a few times now, is a core service that you are providing to your customers, in addition to all of the traditional assembly, box build, repair. I'm assuming the complete fulfillment on the back end as well.
Yeah, so we offer the design. As I shared with you, that as of now, we acquired the skill set for designing in lighting, washing machine, and televisions. Mm-hmm. We will be pursuing this in the case of security surveillance systems and also possibly mobile. Otherwise, as far as the end-to-end service is concerned, we have large polymer processing capacities, metal processing capacities, wound components processing capacity. One of the largest capacities for surface mount, manual insertion, box build, logistics, repair centers for reverse logistics. So it's end-to-end service.
Okay, excellent. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. I mean, obviously, the whole globe has struggled through the COVID pandemic for the last 18 months or longer than that, I guess now. What was the impact on your operations? Did they have? What was that impact, and how were operations functioning today?
So undoubtedly, these were extremely stressful times. And the foremost important thing in front of us was the safety of our people. So we had some fortunate accidents, but on a relative basis, it was minuscule. So fortunately, the efforts done by the team paid dividends, and that most of our people came out of this gruesome pandemic fairly safe. So yeah, all the operating procedures, SOPs were in place. We had a lot of initiative in supporting the families of our people who were impacted. A lot of CSR work was done. That was one aspect. Now, on the business aspect, the first quarter of last year, because there was a complete lockdown in India, the business was definitely impacted. And similarly, there was an unexpected second wave in the April, May, June quarter this year, and the business was again impacted. However, there is such a tailwind in our industry in India that in spite of that, the growth has been very, very robust. So as compared to 1920, in 2021, we grew by more than almost 50%. And this year again, we're going to grow by around 70-75%. However, if the things had been normal, this would have been even better.
Wow. So tell me, I mean, from a component supply chain, a materials perspective, that's obviously been a challenge for the industry here in the past year, and it seems to be getting worse. I guess I'm curious, where does Dixon source most of its materials from, and what has been the impact of the shortages that are being experienced on your business?
So these have been absolutely, as you know, unusual times on the supply chain side. Availability of displays, availability of semiconductors, even passives, the commodity prices just shooting up, whether it's copper, aluminum, steel, zinc, non-availability of containers, vessel sailing schedules getting absolutely disrupted, transit times increasing. So we have to live with that. And as you very correctly mentioned that, we were hoping that things are going to normalize, but I don't see that happening, at least in near future. So if it's not getting worse, it's not even improving. So in all these constraints, the teams have to work. You have to work and execute. So we are living through these extremely stressful times, but we are doing our job. And but in spite of that, the growth has been robust. So as I mentioned earlier, the growth would have been much, much better. Possibly the growth would have been more than 100%, but now we're going to be at 70%. So that is the business lost. These are very, very crazy times. And you know that in EMS industry, the financial profile of this industry is such that you have to be always very, very frugal, because you're subservient to your brand owner. You have to give him a cost structure which makes sense for him to outsource. So we have to manage that balance sheet, we have to manage that financial matrix and execute.
Absolutely.
And grow.
Right. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, India is, like you said, it's an interesting time in India, right? Things are really seemingly taking off now, and the industry is really starting to grow. And I think, the government has had various programs, the Made in India program being one of them. And then also the one I wanted to ask you about is the PLI, the Production Linked Incentive for Large Scale Electronics Manufacturing. Can you tell us about that and how that benefits a company such as Dixon?
So undoubtedly, because of the evolving geopolitical situation globally, India is a possible attractive destination to become a manufacturing footprint for electronic products for global markets. So we have two convictions within Dixon. One is that electronic goods being sold in India are going to be manufactured in India. The second is that out of this, there would be various product categories, wherein the Indian manufacturing industry would be servicing the global markets. Now, any industry to stand on its own feet, it requires some government intervention, it requires some government support in its stages of infancy. And that is what the government has done by rolling out the PLI schemes across various electronic products. And then they're covering up for the disability and giving the industry a time of 4 to 5 years to stand on its own feet, which I feel is adequate, which I feel is very appropriate to make this industry grow. One, it will help India become a part of the global value chains. And second, this is highly labor intensive. So migration from agriculture to electronics manufacturing for Indian masses is most welcome. Now, Dixon is really participating in the PLI scheme, the government of India. So one, we are the beneficiaries of PLI for mobile phones, wherein we have really established 2 greenfield facilities and ramped up our capacity to almost 1 million phones a month. And maximum growth for Dixon is going to come from there. And this is not only for servicing the domestic market, it's servicing global markets and mature markets like US. The second approval that we have got is for IT product. And therein again, we're going to be starting manufacturing, as I shared with you, for a large global laptop brand within a 2 weeks time.
Mhm.
The third PLI approval we have got very recently is for the telecom product.
Mhm.
In telecom products, we'll be manufacturing for the various Indian service operators, the modems, the routers, the GPONs, the ONTs. Then we have also applied for 2 PLIs in the white goods side. One is for the backward integration space of LED lighting, wherein we'll be creating facilities and capacities for mechanicals, ground components, light management systems. And also another one is for the AC component. So we have a large relationship with our Japanese partner, who is a design house for AC inverter controller boards for a global brand like Daikin. So we will be shifting the deeply embedded supply chains in China to this JV under this PLI scheme for servicing the AC parts, not only domestic requirements, but global requirements of Daikin.
Okay.
So we are a very major player in the PLI game in India.
Okay, that's excellent. Now, it seems to also benefit in that 2 of the big trends in electronics manufacturing that seem to have been accelerated during the pandemic were those of both automation and digitalization. As factories becoming more automated, right, communications become more digital, and the ability to transfer and gather information is just accelerating amazingly. How do you see those 2 trends impacting the business at Dixon?
So with this kind of growth and this kind of trend towards digitization, Dixon has to gear up. Dixon has to transform itself internally. And that's the path which we have embarked.
Mm-hmm.
So we have partnered Siemens. Siemens is a gold standard in manufacturing engineering systems.
Mm-hmm.
So those MES systems are being rolled out to start with in our plants for LED televisions and fully automatic top loading machines. And finally, this is going to be implemented across all our factories. And this will also help us in pursuing the path, the journey towards Industry 4.0. Mm-hmm. So we are conscious about it. And so data is going to be the key. Data has to be live. Data has to be real. Only then you can gear up to respond to the huge expectations of our customer. You have to be nimble, and data availability for that is extremely, extremely important. The second is automation. So as of now, there are internal efforts being done to pursue that. But over a period of time, my thinking, my feeling is that we need a partner there who's going to help us with the automation of our plants to take it to possibly the best gold standards in the industry at the global level. So MES has already started, digitization has already started. Mm-hmm. Automation, one needs to give more thrust.
Yeah. And tell me, you alluded to it in one of your responses there about the workforce within India transitioning as well. How is that currently for you in finding? Do you have to train a lot of the employees who come in, or you have great universities putting out a lot of engineers there as well, who are also coming to other parts of the world and sharing their skills. How is it for Dixon in attracting and retaining qualified workers?
So talent acquisition is an extremely important thing, and it's a science, and it's a challenge. And once you acquire the talent, to retain them and also continuously upgrade their skill set is a task. So we have done a lot of internal work on our HR front. on a talent acquisition front as far as acquisition of engineering skill set is concerned. Now, is that simple and easy and seamless? No, it is a challenge. I reiterate that. Now, what we are also doing is that we have a very attractive ESOP scheme. And this ESOP scheme is being used as an extremely important initiative and tool to attract and retain the talent. So that's on the engineer side. As far as the availability of the workforce at the operator level is concerned, that in India is not that much of a. But then once you get those people on board, their initial induction training and their continuous training for multi-skilling, particularly on the critical task, that's something which we all have to very deeply focus on. And that's happening.
Yeah. Tom, and I'm curious about how are OEM relationships changing as well during the pandemic? What's your experience with that? Are they becoming better partners? Are they becoming more concerned, more micromanagers because of all component issues in the supply chain? What's your experience on the OEM relationships, your customer relationships, and how those might be changing and impacted by what's going on?
So, on an overall trend basis, what my sense is that now in the pandemic situation and post-pandemic situation, more and more brands are looking at outsourcing as a route. Because they have different level of cost structures. They are not as nimble. So they are now conservative on their capital allocations. So I feel that the EMS industry globally, and so is the case in India, is going to see a very major flip in a positive way.
Okay.
That is one. The second is deep engagement and micromanaging. I don't see that happening, but definitely it has to be ensured from the EMS partner side that there's an absolute level of transparency. And it is extremely important that you give the bad news to your partner first, then the good news. Because please appreciate, we are their extended arm. In some of the cases, some of the large global players, we do 90% of the revenue generated requirement. With some of the brands, we do 100% of the requirement. And in case you falter, and even if you falter and you're not transparent about it, then it's a disaster for our customers. So that transparency, that faith of them in you, that you're not going to let them down, that moral quotient are extremely important elements of any EMS relationship. And we in Dixon really value that.
That's good to hear, and I'm glad to hear your comments there about those relationships, because that's the key to the business, right? That's how we service those. I'm cognizant of the time, so in wrapping this up, I wanted to ask you about the future for India. Talk about your view of the future of the EMS industry, where you've seen it come quite a ways in the last 20 some years. We're kind of at an inflection point now where things are becoming very positive within India. What is your view of the future and your hope and for Dixon in that?
So undoubtedly, we are extremely optimistic, bullish. We feel very genuinely that this is a Y2K moment for the Indian electronics manufacturing industry. And undoubtedly, there is a very tremendous growth opportunity. However, there are many challenges. The challenges on execution. The challenges, please appreciate that deeply embedded supply chains in China are being shaken, and there would be inertia towards it. And then they're being shifted to India for the global players to try out India. And if there is a miss, then the recovery will not be easy. So you can't afford to miss in your deliverables. The second is on the cost structure side. A lot of this shifting and the effort of India to become a part of the global value chain is also happening because of government support. So that government support also has to be seamless. It should not get stuck in the bureaucratic imbroglio. So, but what I feel this time is that the government as well as the industry realize that it's our moment and it can change the face of the Indian electronics manufacturing industry. It can, over a period of time, deepen manufacturing. It can generate millions of jobs. It can, in certain categories, India can acquire the IP, so for more value creation. So that journey has started and it's extremely positive. So overall, one is very, very positive about it.
Yeah, and I think that's the general tone I get as I've been engaging with various people within the industry there, is that there's a sense of rare optimism for the future, that they've really kind of turned the corner, and with the government's support, things are quite positive there. And I think you just alluded to it as well, some of the reshoring, as they're calling it, from some manufacturing shifting from China to other regions. And India is certainly seen as a prime beneficiary in that shift as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. Ms. Lall, I certainly appreciate your time. As I told you at the beginning, we are initiating coverage of India on a monthly basis, and with the association with ESC India over there. And you have been a great ambassador for the industry there in our conversation today. So I wish to thank you for that. I wish you and Dixon continued success, and I hope that we can stay in touch and get further updates over the years ahead.
Thank you so much. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you.